Here today, you are at the Stanislaus County Board of Supervisors meeting. Today is August 30th. It's a little bit after 9. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And then I'd ask you to remain standing for our invocation from Reverend Jeff Woods from Barnabas Leadership Foundation.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join me in a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, this morning I thank you for the privilege to publicly gather together as a community, to address issues that impact our community and to carry on the business of our county. Thank you for those who are here who serve as our leaders, offering guidance and direction as we seek to solve problems, set policies, and seek the well-being of our greater society. Thank you for their tireless service and for all those who serve alongside them to carry out the decisions made in these meetings. This morning, Father, there are several noteworthy inclusions on the consent calendar, items that would easily go unnoticed, but which make a significant difference to all of us. I know you can identify as so many things you do for our well-being on a daily basis often go unnoticed by us. And so I thank you this morning for our Stanislaus County Public Library system that provides invaluable services to all of us without charge, so that all, regardless of economic status, can benefit from their services. Would you bless their celebration of Library Card Sign-Up Month in September, making it a month of unlocking new opportunities for those who've been unaware of this privilege. Thank you for FEMA and all those who prepare year-round for potential disasters so that we can better be prepared to meet them when they come. Bless their efforts in the month of September, especially as they seek to raise awareness of the need both locally and nationally to prepare ourselves to meet these challenges. Thank you too, Father, for our vast Hispanic population throughout our county who will be celebrating Hispanic American Heritage Month from mid-September to mid-October. Father, how grateful we are for the diverse cultural, social, and economic contributions they make every day that enrich all of our lives. We are so blessed to have so many streams of multi-ethnic heritage in our county joining together to form the vibrant river of life that we enjoy together. And with that in mind, I would also thank you for the Chinese members of our community who will be celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Stanislaus Chinese Association in Modesto this coming Saturday. Last but not least on this list, and as a cancer survivor myself, I thank you for the annual Relay for Life Days, which we will celebrate in the first week of October. Thank you for all of those who bravely battle cancer on a daily basis, and for those who contribute and work tirelessly to seek cures for this community scourge. With thanks for all of these things, I ask that you would guide us as we gather, as we comment, as we update, and as we deliberate on these items that are before our board this morning. Would you grant our board members, our county council, our CEO wisdom as they engage these matters, aware that every decision they make will impact many more people in our community than are able to fit in this room this morning. May you use their decisions for the greater good of all members of our community and our county. For I ask these in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Pastor Woods, thank you very much. That was great. Okay, we're going to move on to our public comment portion of the meeting today. And this is a period of time where anyone can come up and speak about anything besides what is on the agenda. And then you'll be able to get to an item on the agenda if you'd like later. So we will start off today, and this is we allow 5 minutes for this period of time. for everybody to speak. We're going to start off with our first one here is Mr. Monteroso, Joseph Monteroso. Mr. Monteroso, good morning. How are you?
How are you doing, Mr. Chairman?
I'm good, thank you.
Well, you've been served. Got the lawsuit yesterday. I don't know if you know that. I'm sure Thomas knows it. Should be proud. So, going to spend a lot of the taxpayers' money for nothing. So, again, I ask you to prod him along so we can get this matter resolved as soon as possible in the courts, if that's what he would like to do. I'm not afraid of that. Okay. Sometimes I wonder if you guys remember who you work for. See the people sitting in this room? They're the taxpayers. They're the voters. You work for them. I think you forget that a lot, sitting on your high chairs in there, acting like you know everything there is to know. You don't. These people pay the taxes that you take and pay yourselves. You got a bad apple in your group. Maybe you got a couple of them. Maybe it's time you clean house a little bit. Be careful who you thank for their service, Mr. Chairman. It's not what it appears to be. There's only one guy, that's Earl. He and I were in the service together, same time, not same place. He is a true hero. Remember, resentment is the poison you take and hope it kills your enemy. Put together a small fund that will go directly to the vets who deserve it and want it, and I'll match you dollar for dollar. So all you have to do is put it together, the five of you, and I'll match it dollar for dollar. And maybe we can send that to somebody who, not somebody, but a group, an organization, and there are some really good ones that are helping the GIs that need the help, not the ones who don't. I'm sure all of you have kids in your lives. I know you have a young one. Let's say you get up in the morning, you go out to your deck, and in the pool, in your pool, there's a drowned child. I can't imagine how devastating that would be. But you say, well, Mr. Monteroso, that can't happen. And I asked the chairman, well, why is that? Well, Mr. Monteroso, we have a gate and a fence around our pools. You have been totally impotent in allowing me to protect my family and 6 other property owners. Why? Why'd you do this? Halloween will be 1 year. 1 year fighting this battle with you guys. So I'm anxious to see what Thomas has to say. We're anxiously awaiting. By the way, you owe me 2. Sorry, Mr. Chairman. He owes me 2 responses on Information Act. You going to give them to me? Or is he just going to make another unilateral decision? What you going to do? I'm entitled to the information. If you want, I'll give you a subpoena, for God's sakes. Well, guys, I still have a green light. How about that? I want you to take careful consideration on the people that are sitting behind me. They're the ones you should be concerned about. They're the ones who pay your salaries. And for the life of me, I read your agendas. What the hell do? You rubber stamp other people's work. You don't do much yourself. And there's nothing I can do right now. You'll come up for re-election, and if there's a monkey running against you, I'm going to fund it 100%. It's not right. It's not right what you're doing. You should reconsider what you're doing, and if you don't want to do it, resign. Go do something else. You all have other incomes, so you don't need the money here. Yep, I got a yellow. I'm going to run it. No, I'll stay within the rules. That's all I really have to say to you guys today. I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Good luck, Thomas.
Thanks, Mr. Monteroso. Okay, next up, we have Michelle Burke. Michelle, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine today. How are you all?
Good, thank you.
First, I'd like to apologize for a man who apparently doesn't appreciate all of your efforts. A few people behind me surely do. Wish I would have really prepared something to speak because I don't really want to ramble, but I will say recently on Horseshoe Road, we have been able to contact some of our neighbors. We've held a meeting talking about the trail in question. We believe that it's very safe. I spoke to a gal by the name of, well, I'm not even going to say her name because I don't want this guy over here to contact her. She's a resident of Horseshoe Road. She's lived on Horseshoe Road for 75 years. She's 86 years old. I spoke with her about the safety of the road or the trail, and she told me that as long as she's ever lived there, she lived there since she was 10 years old, she doesn't think that anybody has ever so much as skinned a knee on that trail. Never an incident in 75 years. So I'm not sure what Joe thinks is about to happen. I don't really think it's about safety, to be perfectly honest with you. I think he's just trying to throw his weight around. It's pretty atrocious, his behavior. Recently, some of the neighbors on Horseshoe Road received a letter, an anonymous letter from the signature on the letter. There was really no signature. It was from the Oakdale Project, which I guess is a newly formed something with a P.O. box in Riverbank, California, which I thought was interesting. In this letter, it is referenced about the ballot that went out some time ago that some people voted on, and at the very top of the letter it says, "You have been misled," and then it's 4 pages that goes on to say what his rights are, and I don't appreciate that he speaks for me because I am one of those 6 other people that he's referring to. I do not need him to protect my interests whatsoever. Perfectly comfortable with the safety of the road. I actually have a copy of this, and I'm going to submit to the clerk, and she's going to make copies to give to all of you so that you can peruse it. It's a 4-page letter. He sent it, or it was sent out with a ballot for people to, I guess, give their consensus on whether they think the road should be blocked off. There's also pictures that have been put with the letter. Also with it are some emails, and there is some conflicting information regarding who owns the road and who's liable for the road and things like that. So I've included everything for you guys so that you can have this as a matter of statement of facts here for your upcoming trial, what have you. Anyway, I would just like to say that my neighbors and I really are not interested in wasting your time. We want to come as an alternative voice to somebody that thinks that this trail needs to be gated off. We totally disagree with that, but at the same time, we all have lives. We have productive lives. We're busy people doing things that actually matter. And so I'm not sure how many more of these meetings we'll be attending. We will watch the public comments online, and we will come when we see it's necessary or if we have something to rebuke or talk about. We don't want to get up at every meeting and talk for 5 minutes. It's just a huge waste of time in our opinion. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and submit this paperwork that I have, and I wish you all the best of luck with this matter. And my only last question, I'm not sure if you can even answer the question, but does there ever come a time when somebody has been such a nuisance that they're asked to cease and desist? Or is there an answer for that? Is there ever a time when somebody's told they can no longer come or speak or sue or anything like that?
I don't know as far as speaking, I think anybody can come anytime. We usually never stop anybody from, we actually encourage it, but.
All right.
But yeah, with regard to lawsuit stuff, that's going to
Yeah.
be a legal question.
Yeah, okay. All right, well, like I said, we're tired of dealing with this, to be honest with you, and some people have the time to do this, and others of us really don't. So I'm going to submit this, and I wish you the best of luck, and maybe we'll see you in the future sometime.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, next up I have Gail Altieri. Gail, good morning, how are you?
Good morning, Terry and supervisors and everyone. I was not prepared to speak today, but I got a little bit ruffled because of Mr. Monacero's claim of the taxpayer money being spent on ludicrous things. Well, I know that this audience, and probably everybody, doesn't know about the taxpayer money that was spent when the sheriffs were out on Horseshoe Road for 2 to 3 weeks, 3 times per week, 3 times per day. And once they had to be going down the Colony Road. What kind of taxpayer waste was that? That's all I have to say. Just wanted to bring it up. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gail. Okay, next up we have Jim Bishop. Jim, sorry, I know you were here a couple of weeks ago, and I saw you had to leave and before we got to get you up here, so anyway, I wanted to get you up here
Thank you.
early.
I get to speak today.
Yeah, sorry
Okay,
about that.
I'll make it quick. About 3 weeks ago, we had a 4-year-old boy get hit by a hit-and-run driver on Donald Street, and that's just 1 block over from where I live. Donald Street is the section of Robertson Track that runs parallel to Robertson Road, and there are no stop signs on that road. That goes it goes almost 2 miles. Anyway, goes pretty much the whole length of that. I was talking with some neighbors, and we were trying to come up with some solutions to the problem of basically you could put in stop signs, but if somebody's gonna hit a kid and run, they're probably not gonna obey a stop sign either. It's fairly dense housing through that area, and there's a lot of people living there, and so there's a lot of kids. And what we were thinking is we could section off Donald Street, say at Marlowe, and then 2 blocks over again at Hancock, and put in plastic bollards to essentially stop traffic from flowing through there. It would still be accessible to emergency vehicles because you could drive right over top of those things. And then you could bolt down those plastic speed bumps at both places just to discourage anxious citizens from running over the bollards too. That would still provide easy access in and out. It would essentially create a tighter neighborhood there on all those streets that are now sectioned from what was once a thoroughfare, so that then you would have like on our street, like where I live, it's a dead-end street, and everybody knows everybody. We talk to each other, we walk across the street without hesitation to meet our neighbors, and the same thing could happen with these areas. They could essentially be cul-de-sacs, but without all the expense of engineering and stuff. I think the bollards, I looked them up online, they're like $20 a piece, and the bolt-down speed bumps are very inexpensive also. So I was told that adding speed bumps, actually adding asphalt speed bumps to the road was insanely expensive, something like $10,000 apiece or something. So that's a possible solution, and if I need to do something on our end to get, approval for it, I'd like to know what I can do.
So you just did, Jim. You came here and let us know about it. That's perfect. Thank you. And we'll have Public Works get together with you and get out there and try to figure out a resolution to this. How's the 4-year-old?
He's recovering.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. We'll get our Public Works people out there and we'll figure out what we can do.
Okay.
All right. Thanks for coming. Sorry we made you stay so late last time and didn't get you up here.
Everybody has to talk.
Okay. Thanks, Jim. Okay, next up I have Blanca, and I can't, the last name, I can't. Okay, come on up, Blanca, sorry. How are you this morning, Blanca?
Fine. How are you guys? How are you?
Good, thank you. Thank you, it is. It's going to get hot. Yeah, pull that down,
Yeah.
perfect.
Well, I'm here, and you can tell I'm wearing the green shirt. I'm an IHS provider. I'm here regarding our request for a raise. Okay. It's been a while, and anyway. And I noticed something in the newspaper a couple of days ago, and I know that it's been brought up, but I'd like to bring it up again because it help you with our request, okay? And you guys remember that we were faced with an 18% job vacancy rate. Stanislaus County gave employees raise and bonuses. I guess from the county, if you're an county employee, thank you. Okay, I'm not. I was a county employee. I'm not anymore. I retired, so I'm pretty sure they need it. I wouldn't take that away from anybody. Okay. But what interests me was that because IHS is fighting for a raise. What interests me is that this cost the county, the pay and increase and temporary bonus are estimated to cost the county $50.6 million annually. Okay? A fiscal analyst concluded that the county finances are stable enough to support the increased cost. So if this county is stable enough to do that, they should be stable enough to give us our raise. We're not asking for 8%. We're not asking for a bonus. We're just asking for enough to support ourselves and spend locally, because this population, basically 90%, will spend locally. So it's a win-win situation. You give us a raise so we can live. We give you the money back in taxes. So it's a win-win situation for all of us if you just give us what we grant our request and see our side to it. And give us our increase, okay? I'm saying that if county can do this county can do a $50.6 million annual for bonuses for the sheriff, for everybody else, then I'm sure you can find something for us. If we're stable enough to do that, we should be stable enough to give us our raise. Thank you.
Thanks, Blanca. Okay. Next up, I have Chuck Walker, Sr. Oh, yeah, I know the feeling. Good morning, Chuck. How are you?
I'm fine. Thank you. You take this off. I'm here in support of my brothers and sisters in UDW. 5,826 IHSS providers in Stanislaus County care for 7,615 low-income seniors and people with disabilities through the In-Home Supportive Services Program. IHSS caregivers provide vital services to Stanislaus County community members, keeping our neighbors and loved ones out of emergency rooms, nursing homes, and other costly institutional care, saving money and lives. But IHSS providers make just $15.50 per hour with few benefits, all while fellow county workers enjoy a 5% wage increase and pandemic bonuses. IHSS providers were deemed essential workers during the pandemic by Governor Newsom and worked hard to keep Stanislaus County residents healthy and safe. They are frontline heroes. But in recent negotiations, what Stanislaus County has offered comes nowhere near to what IHS providers need and deserve. They are asking for a $2.11 wage increase to $17.50, as well as one-time Heroes Pay payments, expanded access to dental and vision care, and a new life insurance benefit. The county pays only 16% of the total cost, or about $2.87 million, while bringing an additional $17.4 million in federal and state funding back into our community. Now, here's what happens when you don't invest in IHSS by paying caregivers a livable wage. There aren't enough IHSS providers to do the work. Seniors and people with disabilities go without care. Our loved ones and neighbors are more likely to end up in the emergency room and costly institutional care. In fact, a 2019 audit of the IHSS program in Stanislaus County found that nearly 500,000 hours of IHSS care are going unmet in our county, leaving 700 seniors and people with disabilities without the care they need each month. The problem is clear, and the solution is simple. Pay IHSS providers a livable wage and show them the respect they deserve. I speak about this because I have a brother-in-law and sister-in-law that reside in Modesto. They are both Medi-Medis. They're both on Social Security disability, and so far they haven't needed or required any IHSS support. They live in my home. I have a home there. They live there rent-free, and we will take care of my wife and I, we'll take care of our brother and sister, her brother and sister. But it's up to the county to take care of their residents. They should not fall back on individuals to do that stuff. Well, we pay taxes, pay a lot of taxes, and we expect that you take care of your employees like you should. And I think you will. I think you will do the right thing. It's not a big chunk of change here. So I see this little yellow thing blinking, so I must be getting close, huh?
You got till the red. So you see that red,
Okay,
you gotta run.
thank you. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Anyway, again, I'm speaking in support of the UDW efforts to get a pay raise, and I hope you will favorably consider that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck. Thanks for coming down. Okay, next up we have Josephine Carson. Josephine Carson. Josephine, good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And I'm going to echo what Chuck said. I'm Josephine Carson. I'm 73 years old. I'm here with my husband, Jim, who's 81 years old. And we're both members of the California Alliance for Retired Americans. We are an active senior advocacy group. almost 1 million members strong in California. We are here to speak on behalf of the United Domestic Workers, but first I want to tell you a personal story. When Jim and I were in our 30s, my grandmother became seriously ill and disabled. My husband, my sister, and I cared for her in her home for a long time, all while trying to hold down a job so we could survive. It was the hardest thing we ever did in our lives. It's hard. Raising children is hard, but caring for a disabled elderly loved one is hard. I don't have another word for it. We eventually had to get paid help, and she eventually went into a nursing home. Time flies faster than you think. Here we are, Jim and I, and we've reached the age when we need help. We hired a cleaning lady because we can't do all the chores. We have a person to mow our lawn. We're fortunate enough to be able to pay for that. We pay our cleaning lady $20 an hour, and that's cheap. She fits us in around her full-time job, and she's worth every penny she gets, and more. It's my understanding that UDW is seeking a living wage increase. If they are not making $20 an hour, which isn't really a living wage either, they can't sustain themselves and support their family. The work they do is vital to people our age. We seniors want to live independently in our own homes. Not only is it cheaper, it's better for our overall well-being. We need people who are kind, competent, reliable, and trustworthy. UDW workers meet all these qualifications, these requirements, and exceed the requirements in many cases. They deserve the proposed wage they're requesting and more. Medi-Cal patients, UDW workers, save the government money. The average nursing home runs around $6,000 a month. These are our essential workers. I see the day coming when I'm going to need an essential worker. They deserve to be respected and well paid for their service to people like me. Do the right thing, give them their raise. If you can't do this, the shame is on you. I pray that all of us here stay healthy.
Thank you, Josephine. Okay. Next up, we have Miguel De Noso.
Thank you, sir.
Miguel, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to speak in regard to the job description or the opportunity job in regard to the diversity, equity, inclusion manager position. That for me, sir?
No, we're changing it.
No, we got it. Okay, we're starting fresh.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. But you want to intimidate me, so it's okay, sir. In regard to the about community, the rich diversity, it's a very confused word because you're not talking about who is the diversity in this county. It's only say diversity. The other one, in regard to equity to who? In regard to inclusion, to who could want to be included? I hope that Mr. Hayes look at me or listen to me in the same as the attorney. The guys just keeping there watching something else, but not listen to the people, and that's not correct, sir. That's unrespectable because we are the people that want to talk to you guys and listen to us. Mr. Chairman, the issue of the sense of community and to make a good diversity in this community and not being addressed in regard to diversity. The second part is in regard to the job description of the skills and ability. That person is going to be speak Spanish or other language. So it's very easy for that position to be any person, especially white person, that for sure going to be hired, because you don't need to have nice skills to have the skill to speak with the public in regard to different issues and diversity and inclusionary and the equity. The large people that have the diversity are not too happy with this county in regard to the services providing and ability to come to you and feel comfortable. The majority are low income and minorities in underrepresented and underserved community. So we don't have that part of the diversity in equity and inclusion is not there. This county is not doing that. It pretending regard to the $5 million, but really it's not there. And the other one, many county employees don't have the sensitivity or know the area they're going to be, keep the money or have the diversity and equity and inclusion. The majorities are in the desk or not have the sensitivity because already have another level of representation in this government and not there. So I'm asking to whoever going to be employed to receive this job to at least go to the underserved community and feel and have the sensitivity to who the guys supposed to serve. Especially under the 13985 executive order, they said underserved community and not to be in the desk 90%. That not mean diversity, equity, and inclusion. And not there. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Miguel. Okay. And next up, we have Cynthia Holman. Cynthia from the Patterson City Council. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to listen to me for a couple of minutes. I wanted to talk to you all about something that I'm very passionate about and that will affect every one of us, most likely. We will either be cared for or help care for someone else. And it's a hard reality to face, but I know I faced it in my life. My mother was a caregiver. We were very poor. That was a job she liked to do a lot. She loved it. She cared for those who couldn't care for themselves. So I grew up with this in my mind and the hard work that she did. When my parents got older, we moved them in, and we took on the hardest job of our lives, and that was caring for them. It took all of us, my kids, my husband, myself, to take this job on. So I'm here to speak for UDW and for those that are really fighting for a living wage. They're making less than someone who works in and out. And I would really like for you to consider that and consider how someday you may be faced with these challenges, that they are just so difficult. And these people deserve a raise. They deserve to be able to live doing the job they love. And we are very lucky that they love this job. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Thank you so much for listening.
Cynthia, thank you for coming down, Cynthia. Okay, next up we have Astrid Zeneca. Astrid, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing all right. A little sleep deprived, but I'm okay. That's what happens when you are a care provider, and you've been up since 3:30 this morning. So my name is Astrid Zuniga. I am a home care provider for my adult child who has autism, intellectual disabilities, and epilepsy. And I appreciate some of the comments that have been made here. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I have been participating in the Stanislaus 2030 webinars and meetings and things of this sort. And something jumped out to me at the one I attended this past Friday. One of the slides that they showed was redefining economic success here in Stanislaus County. And that is by growth, prosperity, and inclusion. And I'm going to focus mainly on the inclusion, because home care workers are not part of that inclusion. This workforce is the fastest growing workforce in the nation. The fastest growing. We do not have the means to care for all of the seniors and people with disabilities in our communities. And it is up to you all, as leaders of this community, to invest in that. And I get what Stanislaus 2030 is doing, and I appreciate that with the focus on business and ag, especially where we're all at. But if we're not focusing on one of the fastest growing workforces, we are not accessing the opportunities that raise employment and income, enable residents across the community segments to participate in the fullest of their abilities. We are not doing that. We're not focusing on the poverty that riddles our communities. Someone else, I believe it was Cindy, she just said that her mom loved to do home care. She loved it. They lived a poor life because people didn't look at this profession as a profession and respected it. And it should be respected for the work that they do. And the money that they save, the state, the county, the money they're putting back into it. And then you're not even considering also the differences in the race and geographies. This is if you look out in this audience, this is everybody in that green shirt, majority of them are women, women of color, and we are not respecting them for the work that they are doing and providing our community's most vulnerable. I'd like to see either one of you, and Vito and Chance, you both have agreed to come and walk a day in my shoes, but I guarantee you, when you're having to wrestle a young man who's going through a mental breakdown in the middle of a grocery store, safely get him out of there, you'd be happy. And then get him home, get him calm, get him a shower, have to shave him, change a diaper. You'd be happy to come back to whatever your day job is. But maybe, just maybe, you would experience just a sliver of what we all go through on a day-to-day basis. And that should be respected with at least, the very least, a living wage. As a society and a community, we should be investing in this and making it a competitive workforce where people want to come to Modesto and not try to go to the Bay Area and get paid better. We have a lot to give here in Stanislaus County, but we're not giving to those who need it the most. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Okay, next up we have Stacy Garcia. Stacy, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. I'm here with UDW, and I just want to share my story. I feel that we deserve a raise. I'm 36, and I take care of my disabled mother. I've been doing it for 11 years. She has multiple sclerosis. She's non-mobile. So what I do every day is take care of my mother. I have to transport her from bed to chair, from chair to shower. I have to change her. I have to brush her. I have to dress her. So she is now my baby, and I take care of her. I see CNAs, nurses. I have friends my age going to colleges and exceeding in their career as nurses. I had to stop that to take care of my mother, and I'm getting paid $15 to $50 an hour. I have a 5-year-old, and I also take care of my father. And I feel that you guys need to do something so that we can get comfortable living wages, especially nowadays. It's outrageous. You can't even go to the grocery store to get a week's groceries and pay under $60 of your weekly groceries. We are trying to help our family, our our neighbors, everyone, to make sure that they're at home safe and getting taken care of greatly. There's nursing homes that don't even do what we're doing around the clock. And I just feel that we deserve our pay. We're not asking for much. We're asking for an equal pay as a 16-year-old that's working at McDonald's or In-N-Out. I have a niece that's making more than me, and she works at Olive Garden. And I work around the clock. I'm blessed to live around the block from my mom, so I can attend her in the middle of the night if I need to. But there's people that don't, and they have to, they have to leave their family members or their neighbors or whoever they're taking care of at home for, to go home and rest. You got to get rest. You got to have rest for yourself, and it's hard for us caregivers to take care of ourselves 24/7 when we're putting all that work into someone to take care of. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Stacy.
Thank you.
Okay, next up we have Will Kelly. Well, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Very good. Will Kelly with the Executive Director of the North Valley Labor Federation. We're a coalition of some 70 labor unions in the Northern Valley, including UDW and the almost 6,000 IHSS workers in Stanislaus County. As I said last time, there's nothing I can add to what you just heard or what you heard from Astrid or what you're going to hear from additional providers. But this is about dignity and respect, and coming and showing that not just in your words, not just in in showing up, but in these negotiations and making sure that these workers are valued. Whether it's being moved by the testimony you've just heard, whether it's concern about the aging crisis or the lack of health care or recognition of the incalculable benefits that this program provides the county in offsetting other service, whether it's concern about how people are coping with rising prices and inflation, or about the arguments that were made earlier about how this money stays in the community and helps all of us, especially with so much of it offset from state and federal funding sources. Whatever the reason is truly time to take a stand with these workers and make sure that in negotiations from here on the county shows the proper respect, because that has not been the case so far, and it's time for that to change and for these workers to get a good contract so they can focus on the crucial, vital, life-giving work that they do. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Okay, Mike Thury. Mike, I'm sorry, I tried to keep all the Horseshoe Road ones together, and I didn't see this one. Sorry to keep you waiting.
Good morning. Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I basically, as a rebuttal to Mr. Earl Kelly's statements at the last meeting, I also worked at the Livermore Lab for 40 years, the same as Mr. Earl Kelly. The safety culture at the lab is first and foremost, which is instilled into every individual who worked there, especially after 40 years. I am one of those individuals. Now that I'm retired, I turn my thoughts and concerns to the neighborhood. Within the last few months, I discovered a rattlesnake on my property. I immediately contacted my neighbors, especially those with small children around, to warn them of the danger. That is the way we do things on Horseshoe Road. At the last meeting, Mr. Kelly stated he has lived there for the last 35 years. He then went on to explain how he has acquired his so-called vast experience of horsemanship and trail riding. He suddenly, after 35 years of riding himself on Old Colony Road, has suddenly decided that traversing Old Colony Road is dangerous and unsafe for everyone else. Mr. Kelly, with his vast experience, went on to say that it is too dangerous for horses and motorized vehicles to ever exist on the same road or trail. I would at this time like to remind you that horses are used by many law enforcement agencies across our great country for crowd and traffic control. Horses are used in our own county at the Oakdale Rodeo. Another example of this is the use of mounted police in one of the cities with the heaviest and most chaotic environments in our country. They are used on a daily basis in New York City. In addition, out of the goodness of Mr. Kelly's heart, Mr. Kelly chose to lead our annual neighborhood Halloween hayride for 14 years. During this time, there was an average of 50 to 75 children escorted by their parents or grandparents, with approximately 4 to 6 tractors with trailers used each year. He led all the hayrides down Old Colony Road in the dark to enhance the scare factor for Halloween. During these hayrides, he never stated he was concerned about safety. Doing the math, he actually led in excess of 700 children, 300 adults, and 56 tractors and trailers down Old Colony Road without any accidents or problems, and that was doing it in the dark. I would also like to bring attention to, just imagine that on a road that he and Mr. Monterosso have deemed too dangerous for anyone to use under any circumstance. I would also like to bring to your attention, to my knowledge, there has never been a recorded accident on Old Colony Road since its conception over 85 years ago. P.S. As per the Modesto Bee article, maybe Mr. Monterosso can buy a set of curtains to keep the lights so they don't shine in his windows. And if he does that, maybe we can bring this whole situation to a close. I've been there myself for 35 years on Horseshoe Road. I do not see the road as unsafe. It is a great asset and used by our community. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you. Okay, next up we have Debbie Martinez. Debbie, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Terry. I'm not doing well emotionally. My name is Debbie Martinez. I'd like to go before this governing board. I'd like to go on record. I'd like to state my position and how I serve this community. I entered into this community in 1984. At that point in time, Dick Lang was mayor. We were able to work well with him with our disadvantaged population of children. Fast forward almost 40 years, I have not moved from my position. Everyone knows that I come before this governing board on behalf of children that are being victimized in our schools. I ask once again this governing board to raise your hand to those that took the oath under our constitutions. Because in those oaths lie our children's constitutions. Article 1, subsection 28, they have a right to enter into a public setting, school, that's safe, secure, and peaceful. You guys are talking about money. These superintendents received a raise while we were in a pandemic. Scott over at Stanislaus County Office of Education, and by the way, I'm running for District 2, representing Turlock. Why? Because they're overpaid. Our children are being victimized. My most recent, the news said he went over an unsecured gate, rise. He was found in the bottom of a pool. He was pushed in, as far as we're concerned. His mother comes from Fiji. His father comes from the southern border. I stand because their son's body is in Alameda County. They can't even bring them home. There's a story to this. In 2015, we lost Andy Agogori. I fought 1 year Modesto City Schools to get those defibrillators out, so maybe hopefully we'll not lose another one. Now we lost one at Turlock. 9 months ago, I went before governing boards. I come to this board, you guys kicked me to Scott. Scott tells me, what do you want me to do, Debbie? The districts are like cities. My hands are tied, but yet he makes $389,000 a year to give us a bogus comeback kid program after they're 18. If they make it out of high school without a diploma or certificate, they get the opportunity to come back. Come back kid. They're not even kids after 18, but yet you get to milk that same disadvantaged child. I'm exhausted. I need help. I need your voice. I need you to go tell Scott what is going on in these schools. Why are our children coming home victimized? I was supposed to be in a hearing today with a parent. Dutcher Middle School. I had to remove a pedophile. Where's your voice? You guys are promoting, allowing. But what about us? What about the parents? I want to break that curbside service. Drop them off at the curb, pick them up at the curb, and don't get off the car because you're going to get a bowl of lies until I get there. I sat with the principal yesterday. He was so disengaged in what happened to his student that was found at the bottom of the pole, but yet that little boy reached out. Wednesday, instead of being secure, he was suspended. But I'm not going to try him here because I've got counsels waiting for that. But if you look up 2015, we lose one in Gogori. You look up 2016, we lose one at Downing. And my list goes on and on and on and on. Do you guys really care about the seniors? Because I am. I'm senior. I'm disabled. I can't walk. But I'll crawl to the doors of justice when it comes to our children. Because before they become adults, we got to get them out of the rat race that this county has created, the school-to-prison pipeline. That mayor, I keep saying it, she's in our federal courts. She was part of it when she was over there at the Modesto City Schools when she allowed Andy to die. She never fought for us. Who's going to fight for us? What voice do I have on this panel with the exception of Chance and Mr. Withrow? Not one of you. I asked for a pathway. CPS. They're mandated when they get to school, but when they get home victimized, where's our CPS? Who do we call when they're victimized within the city and the county? And I'll keep coming like that gentleman that said whatever he said, and then these people have to downsize his feelings under his First Amendment, downsize mine, because I will continue to fight for our disadvantaged population of our children. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Okay, next up, we have Sebastian Jones. Sebastian, good morning. How are you?
Morning. Good morning, Jerry. Good morning, Board of Supervisors. I thank God that I'm here. I survived. I am alive. God protect me from it. I was just sitting there thinking when I was on my way up to Stanford. Check on the brain, make sure it's all right. I was sick for a minute. Somebody had to take care of me. I mean, it was a little difficult because I didn't know if I was here on this earth. But once again, we're here. And these people's here, and these people. Everybody in this room is getting older. They're going to need something, whether they're going to go to the nursing home, rehab, or stay at their kid's house or wherever. I have an 88-year-old. Sometimes it can be difficult. But I stand. just can't. This is sad. I was sitting there watching Sue's on their phone, and who was really listening to the people. I made notes. It's sad. All you men, and most of these are women, they're doing the job. Here we go. You guys, let's take care of the policeman. But I just heard Debbie say that during the pandemic, I didn't know when you got your raise, but I forgot. Well, they did get a cost of living raise. Okay, I do know that. Let's be fair. You guys all know me. Let's be fair. These people are tired. I wish they could bring all the people with the wheelchairs, hospital bed, fill that parking lot up, fill that up there, to bring them down and tell you how they appreciate the workers they're working for. But I know they cannot help. We have a lot of handicapped buses out there, disabled buses, bringing them down here. And you guys probably would have a little tear. It's time. This has been going on too long. Everybody's getting the cost of living rate. Here in Stanislaus County, you got these people up here begging. They don't need to beg. You guys should have been ahead of them. Hey, look, let's get you some money. I know time is hard. I know gas done went up. I know food done went up. Rent done went up. You name it. Even the city raised the water. The light bill, everybody's trickling down on the money. And here we are. UDF down here. Basically crawling. They don't have to crawl. They standing tall because they hear just about every time you got this thing open. Unfortunately, I missed some days because I was down. I was able to walk 50 miles with the United Farm Workers and finish in Sacramento. I thank God. Let's quit. You guys, look at all you men's up there. Come on. What is the problem? You guys ain't scheduled me to look out for people. It's going to cost more money if they was in the nursing home and you guys won't pay. Let's save some money and give it to us so we can continue. We do extra. Y'all know we do extra. It's just in your heart. Let's stop this. I know I got this light coming on. But come on. Y'all need to quit. Y'all really need to quit. Y'all sitting up there in y'all suits and stuff. And these people are in t-shirts. Asking, can you have a heart? Time has come. A little cost of living rate. This is so sad. I forbid that you don't have Mr. Jones to take care of you. And I'm able, because I'm going to whisper in your ear.
Thanks, Sebastian. Okay, next up we have Terry Walker up here. Terry? Terry, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, my friend Terry. How are you?
I
I'm
am
okay.
I am good. Thank you. How are you feeling?
You know, got some aches and pains and all those good things, but, you know, God has prevailed since 2018 and is still working on me.
Good.
Okay. So I just rise this morning just to say I know everybody has said what they had to say and time is ticking and all that kind of stuff, and I just thank God for being here. Of course, you guys know I'm Terry Walker Dampier, and I live here in the great city of Modesto, Stanislaus County. And I'm just here today with my fellow UDW brothers and sisters. And we all know by now that we rise just to talk about a little living wage, which is a $2 increase. Which this $2 increase will not, bankrupt us. And it's not really a lot. We deserve more than that, just like, you guys do. And Terry, we have talked before, and pretty soon I might need a caregiver, and those things that Terry didn't receive, I want that caregiver to receive that more. So I just want to say to you, how long has it been since, you lived on a minimum wage? And could you really live on that minimum wage? And $17.50 an hour seems like a lot, but it's really, really not. Because the money that we receive, we spend it here in Stanislaus County. Because, we just don't have enough money to go to this place and to that place. So, and I would like to go a long ways towards recruiting other providers. But what they say to me, they say, well, Terry, I can go over to In-N-Out. I can go to McDonald's and flip burgers. Why don't you come go with me? I can make more than that. And so I don't get upset with that. But the situation is that we have so many seniors that's coming along, and not only seniors, but we have disabled individuals. And through my line of working, I've worked with so many people, and I'm their only voice. Sit by their bedsides until they take their last breath, So we really need that living wage, and we don't want to suffer. So I'm not going to stand here all day long. And I would like to say, the question is really, can you afford to give IHSS a living wage? That's the question. So, but how can you afford not to give it to them? So I'm really just standing there, prayer, songs, and I fast 1 day a week. Not the whole day, because I have to take medicine. But I'm fasting that, you guys will do the right thing. And in my last closing remarks, I want to ask you, not only what you can do for us, but what can I do for you? Even though I might be stricken or, not feeling good sometimes because I do stand here with stage 4 cancer. But I live in this community, I love this community, and I love people, and I know it's something I can do for some of you guys. And I thank you guys who follow me on Facebook. I thank you guys who, love me. And I love you in return. So let's just kind of try to divvy this up and get that little living wage going, and then we'll be out of your hair, and maybe we can come do some stuff for you guys, okay? So God bless, and remember, Jesus is watching us all.
Thank you, Terry. Bless you, too. Okay, that's the last speaker card I had. Is there anybody else that'd like to come on down? Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yesenia Cuevas, and I am with California Alliance for Retired Americans. California Alliance for Retired Americans is a senior advocacy organization representing over 1 million members statewide. Our organization is dedicated to ensuring every Californian has the support necessary to age with dignity and independence. Now, what brings me here today is California is facing a huge demographic shift over the next 8 years, as we all know. By 2030, the Master Plan on Aging projects seniors and older adults will comprise of over 25% of our state population, and that's huge. Without the proper local investments to sustain and build the needed workforce to meet this challenge, we are not only hurting our seniors today, but are depriving our communities of the long-term resources needed to age with dignity and grace in Stanislaus County. IHSS workers are very critical to the care economy all over in the state of California. Supporting these workers with a union contract isn't just sound policy, it's a vital investment in Stanislaus. Long-term care is so needed. And I have been hearing story over story, but I want to say our opening prayer was that God may give you each wisdom. And it is wise to do the right thing. And the right thing is to acknowledge that they're underpaid. They are lacking benefits. And it's in your hands this morning to do the right thing. So I do ask each one of you to do what is right for all home care providers in the IHSS program. Thank you.
Thanks, Yesenia. Anybody else? I have no more speaker cards, but anybody else like to speak? Come on down.
Last week, and I wasn't going to say anything, but hearing what I consider a dirty word today about a nursing home, I would never put my daughter in a nursing home. I did it once for 4 days. I went on a trip. I met with the owner, brought her stander over there. Said, one thing is, if the TV's on, have her up where she can hear it. I got there, the stander had never been touched. She was sitting in a dark room in the back. The owner who I spoke with, I don't think even talked to her staff. Anyway, that's one experience. I've looked at other nursing homes. It's just not the same as being at home. I know her. She knows me. We communicate very well, and I've trained others to do the same thing. So I'm also a therapist and a trainer, as been mentioned several times, a professional. It'd be good to get paid for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim, for coming down. Anybody else? Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Now, if you pull that microphone down closer, there you go.
Della Perales again here, trying to get a point across. I haven't moved the needle yet, so I'm going to try it. I'm going to attempt again. I'm going to start with you gentlemen here. You guys are up there shining, but you don't shine alone. You have your secretaries that allow you to shine. They know what calls to patch in to you, which ones to take a message. They get the sound system here going, they do the agendas, they help you shine. You don't do it alone. They too do not do it alone. After they leave at the end of their day, another crew comes through that vacuums the carpets, throws the trash out, cleans the restrooms for the public and for yourselves. Everybody needs help. Doctors can't survive in an operating room without a critical nurse, without the ones that come in and do the mop-ups later, without the cafeteria workers feeding the patients and the public. We don't live in a bubble. We all need each other. If our trash wasn't picked up tomorrow morning, we'd all be in a tizzy. If those guys went on strike, we would find the money. Why would we find the money? Because there's plenty of it. There's plenty of money to go around. My family members over here don't have someone coming in the morning ahead of them, and they don't have someone coming at the tail end of us. We do all the work ourselves. We need a living wage. Nobody in this world does it alone. We all need help, and you're able to help us if you choose to. It's not a hard mountain to climb here. I'll make it simple. Even Jesus needed 12 helpers. Thank you.
Thanks, Stella. Okay, anybody else? Come on down. Good morning, how are you?
Morning. Hi, I'm good. I'm Teresa Tovar. I'm also a caregiver for the In-Home Supportive Service Program. This morning, I was listening to the news, and I saw that there's a bill going to the governor's office for fast workers' rights. What about the caregivers' rights? What about the rights of the elderly and the disabled? They're the vulnerable population. We're doing life-saving work for them. If it wasn't for us, they'd be in hospitals, they'd be in nursing homes. I'm doing it for my dad. It's not something that I choose to do, it's something I have to do. And so I would wish that you would respect our work, respect that we want to see this work with dignity and respect, as well as all other workforces. If fast food workers are going to get a bill for their rights, please consider us. Please consider our rights and the rights of the elderly and disabled. They do have voices too. They have the right to vote, and I hope that if something doesn't get acknowledged, I hope that they choose their voting rights and their voice to let it be known, and so maybe they can choose the right people to do the right decisions to make it better for them. Thank you.
Thanks, Teresa. Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public comment portion here. We're going to move on to consent calendar. We do have one email that came in with regard to consent calendar comment. We won't read it, but it will be on file if anybody wants it. Is there anybody on the board that would like to pull anything from consent? Anybody from the audience like to pull anything from consent? Seeing... Oh, I'm sorry you did, Miguel. I am sorry. Yeah, both Miguel and Debbie, I think, had a couple. Okay. So, Miguel, come on up. Thank you for that. This is for item A5. Let's go ahead and do that right now before we...
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I see the proclamation for the Heritage Month of the Stanislaus County for the Hispanic. But at the same time, it's going to be a function the 14th of September, 6 o'clock, in regard to the WEAL, W-E-L, sponsor that. And they are supposed to have 8 speakers or 8 members of the panel. And yet, we don't have no Hispanic or Mexican American representation in that group. So it's contradicted regard to the Hispanic heritage. In beautiful proclamation to mention what is the Hispanics or Mexican American Latino in the county, in the national, be proud or to be recognized. And yet locally, we are not being recognized. Locally, we are not independent. Locally, we not set in the decision making. Locally, we don't have a voice. So it's contradiction of the proclamation. The county have over 50% Mexican American Latino population, and yet no representation in this panel. At the same time, many reports that you receive from your staff, they send it to the state and federal, never mention in regard to COVID-19 impact in economic, in the health, mental health, in job they lost, the Mexican American and Mexican family Latinos. In March 2020 was 30% in east side. In June, July was 70% Mexican American COVID-19. It never report what happened to the economic impact. Never report how many really died, how many were sick in the hospital, how was they take care of the mentally ill families. Never. Still not reporting that. It's amazing. And yet you can report anything, economic development, housing, everything, but not regard to the COVID-19 because you are afraid to see the reality. The effect of the Mexican American Latino economically, mentally, emotionally, never was reported. Mr. Chairman, this city, or this county is like tell 2 cities. I don't know if you ever read that book, but it was excellent, and to show that the unbalance in one city have two cities at the same time. One the powerful, the other one the poor, and never be recognized. This kind of look like the apartheid from Africa before Nelson Mandela. We the minority are the majority in this county, and yet 30% control have the power. Even you both, the white people have the power. No matter we have two minorities in the board, you still the white have three white power. So that's very a shame to see the not really a good diversity representation in this county. Many of the superintendents are white, the majority. Even the education or the office, white. The high position in this county, whites. In every department, whites. Maybe one by accident. The other one is through the unfair and supposed to equal representation or equal opportunity. That's a big lie. Because most of the time when they come to the minority, they qualify, are not qualified. They only qualify the white people. If you select 10 people to apply for the job, and come 4 white, the 4 white are being selected. The rest are not qualified because don't have a good education, don't have the experience, and don't have a good background. So the power continue. Who is the sheriff? White. Who is the clerk? White. Who is the CEO? White. So really, what happened in this county is a big strong discrimination, openly. But because we're supposed to be democratic process, well, you have to vote for these people. But who have the power to vote? Not the regular people, because you have to pay for the advertisement. You have to be paid to be a candidate. It's supposed to be free. Anybody can apply. No, you have to pay over $1,000 in different positions. You have to pay more. For your campaign, you have to put millions of dollars. So not equal for the poor people to run. So poor people can never run in your position. Never. No way. It's an equal opportunity for the democratic. No, it's not democratic. It's where the power is and the money, and who have the money is the white people. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Miguel. Okay, Debbie, I think you wanted to, yeah. I think you wanted to talk about the same item, Debbie.
Debbie Martinez from We Are La Raza Parents Union. We're a social justice movement. I got that from Cesar Chavez. Oh, my time's up. Anyways. I'm here again supporting Miguel on this matter. Miguel has supported me with the education because in Turlock, who's the one that oversees Turlock, by the way? Vito, I need you after this meeting, or I'm going to give you my card. In Turlock, we did the redistricting, the boundaries. I was in this chamber about maybe 4 years ago, where we did Modesto City Schools for open elections, and then we did it for Turlock. Come to find out, there's one section, which is Anthony Silva's section, where we have 71% Hispanics. The voice is not there, Vito. We have a little boy in Alameda that needs to come home. The parents don't have money. But yet that little boy's, when he was in school, Angel's not in school, they might as well have said, where's our money? Community is asking to bring that little boy home and to help support that family that sits in 71%. Like Miguel just said, we are so underprivileged. On a broken foot, Saturday and Sunday, I was scraping beans and rice, praying to Jesus Christ that they got $15,000 because they don't want to make ashes out of their child. They want to properly put him to rest. Where's our voice? We're the people. Where are you? When we need
whatever it is that you guys are trying to promote and distribute from our Hispanic population. I feel I'm number one who's endured. 10 years ago when I was exposing Tom on that bogus school-to-prison pipeline, the military school, 10 years later we're finally chipping away at it. Our kids don't belong there. No more than they belong in a grave or a bogus comeback kid program. And I'm speaking on behalf of our Hispanic population and the rest that don't have voices that come from foreign borders. Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. Okay. Any other item to be pulled from consent? That's all that I have. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll move on to our public hearing. We have item 5, approval to reschedule the public hearing from August 30th to the October 4th meeting. Patrick, how are you?
Hi, good morning, Supervisor Withrow, CEO Hayes, County Council Bose, Patrick Kavanaugh, or board members. I'm Patrick Kavanaugh, Senior Management Consultant with the Stanislaus County Chief Executive Office. We originally had a public hearing scheduled today to consider public facility fees for the West Stanislaus Fire Protection District. However, they have requested that we reschedule the public hearing to a later date. So at this time, we're requesting that the board reschedule the public hearing to October 4th, to the October 4th meeting.
Okay, do we need to open a public hearing to do this?
No, it's just procedural.
Okay, very good. Okay, good. Any questions for Patrick? I'm going to wait a second for 2 of our board members to come back. Okay. Did anybody go to county night for the baseball at the Modesto Nuts?
Josie did. Tara, I saw lots of people.
Yeah.
Didn't say I was there.
We'll wait for it. So if anybody went, or they didn't go, so Jody and I got to throw out the first pitch. So I went before Jody, and I preached the whole time before as we were warming up, throw high, because you're on the mound, it's gonna distort it, and you're gonna end up bouncing it if you don't throw it high. So I get up there, and I throw high. I throw so high that the catcher can't even get to it. And there's a guy with a camera over on the back. I hit him right in the head. So he was okay, I'm hoping.
So while we're taking a few moments, a few years ago, I threw out the first pitch, and there was a little girl who was about 5 years old who was out there on the mound, and former police chief Mike Harden. And so the little girl threw the ball, and it went about 4 feet and rolled, and they came out, and I'm like, I know I can get it to home plate. And I said, Mike, why don't you go first? And nobody knew that Mike, at least I didn't know, he was a former minor league pitcher and threw like an 80-mile-an-hour fastball with the glove, didn't move. Like, I'm out of here. I'm so out of here. It was terrible. But Mike Harden, former major league pitcher.
But you got it to home plate, though, I'm sure.
I did. I got it to home plate.
And Jody threw a great strike, too. Jody did a great strike, so. Okay, all right. So we're looking for, if there's no more comment with regard to this item 5.1, we're just looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Very good. We'll move on to item 6.1, approval to contract with Center for Human Services for Focus on Prevention Steering Committee Backbone Support. And Damien is going to start this off.
While Damien's bringing that up, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in because I think I have the first 1 or 2 slides here. And just want to recognize that we are about 8 years into our journey with what we fondly call Focus on Prevention, which is perfectly named because it tells you everything about what we're trying to do with this local initiative. I want to recognize right away that we're talking about an initiative and an idea and a vision that were originated with 2 of our long-term leaders here, Chairman Withrow, along with my predecessor, retired CEO Stan Risen. And between Supervisor Withrow and Mr. Risen, they had this brainstorm of what we could do if we spent our time working upstream and making intentional investments on a long-term basis, and what would the return on those investments look like over time. That was the concept. In order to actually do that on a global scale and what we call a collective impact methodology, takes a tremendous amount of time and energy. So what we wanted to do today was, this is a pivotal moment in our maturing of the Focus on Prevention program. We've had this wonderful partnership with many folks on the steering committee, and particularly with the Center for Human Services and Cindy Duenas and her team. And we have a new opportunity to kind of reshape how we support this effort. This has been many years in the making, what we're going to bring forward and recommend for you today. So I just wanted to kick us off and remind everybody that we've been at this for 8 years. The vision has not wavered once, that we are trying to come up with our best strategies to invest upstream to support this community in our downstream outcomes. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Damien and the team for the rest of this presentation.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman Withrow, Board of Supervisors, CEO Hayes, County Council Bowes. I'm Damien Martinez, Senior Management Consultant with the Stanislaus County Chief Executive Office. So we're going to talk a little bit this morning about our recommendation for a new fiscal agent and a proposed new backbone team with some of our partners. I'll have some co-presenters this morning, Cindy Duenas from the Center for Human Services, as well as Kate Trumpeter. So I want to first acknowledge the steering committee for Focus on Prevention. And for those who are in attendance or watching, it's essentially the executive committee for this collective impact effort. And so if you would allow me just very quickly to identify and recognize our steering committee members. We have our steering committee co-chairs. You'll see Brad Hahn and Cindy Duenas are in the audience. Also, our members on the committee for the rest of the committee would be Brian Justin Marks from Love Stanislaus County, CEO Hayes, Catherine Davis, President and CEO of Valley First Credit Union, Chairman Withrow, Christopher Soriani, President and CEO of United Way of Stanislaus County, Ruben Imperio, our current Assistant Executive Officer from Stanislaus County, Michelle Tetro, Chief Financial Officer from Health Plan of San Joaquin. We also have in the audience Megan Lowry, Director of the Stanislaus Cradle to Career Partnership from Stanislaus County Office of Education, and Mary Ann Cannon, President and CEO of Stanislaus Community Foundation. And also in attendance we have Stephen Fazakis, who is our Public Information Officer, who we share with Stanislaus County Office of Education. So I wanted to recognize this particular committee. And before I turn it over to Cindy to talk about our proposed new role in partnership with the Center for Human Services, just wanted to give you a very brief background on historically the backbone team, which has served as staff support for Focus on Prevention, was housed in the Stanislaus County Chief Executive Office from its formal inception in January of 2015 through this current year. And that has been composed of various staff members, our Deputy Executive Officer, several, as well as different managers, including myself, and several different confidential assistants with leadership from several Assistant Executive Officers. That is what's proposed here, is to transition that backbone team to Center for Human Services and also to Kate Trumpeter and her organization. So with that, I would like to invite up Cindy Duenas, who's, as I mentioned before, the Steering Committee Co-Chair for Focus on Prevention and the current Executive Director for the Center for Human Services. Cindy?
Good morning, everyone.
Cindy, good morning.
It's a pleasure to be with you here today. I kind of have two roles, but I want to speak to you from my role as Executive Director of Center for Human Services. We have actively participated in Focus on Prevention from its inception. We were on the original Stewardship Council. I have been representing the nonprofit sector in that role, and I'm currently the co-chair. But I do want to speak to you about how this focus on prevention has transformed the work that the center is doing. And it's my hope that by continuing to work this way, focusing on system change, working for upstream solutions, that there are more and more organizations and entities will work together to really move the needle on some of these intractable issues we have in our community. So the center is 100% behind supporting this effort as fiscal sponsor. What that really means is that we will hold the contract on behalf of Focus on Prevention, manage the funds, report quarterly as the contract indicates how the funds are being spent, and be the liaison with the county CEO office to ensure that any money that's spent is spent as you would want it to be spent. We will also hold the personal services contract with Kate Trumpeter and her organization, who will be providing the actual backbone support for Focus on Prevention moving forward. We, as a steering committee, think this is a pivotal moment in this movement, like both Jody shared and Damien, in allowing us the flexibility to continue to move forward the strategic objectives of Focus on Prevention. And I want to say on behalf of the steering committee and Focus on Prevention how much we appreciate the ongoing support that the County Board of Supervisors has presented for our community to have these funds to focus on prevention. So Damien, can you move to the next slide? I just want to briefly talk about, for some of you, you're new to the board, you weren't here when it originally started, but when Stan and Terry got together and envisioned this movement, one of the things that we focused on was homelessness. And you wouldn't necessarily think about homelessness as something that is a prevention strategy, because by the time people are homeless, they're pretty much into intensive need. However, I'm really extremely grateful that they started with that initiative, because we learned a lot as a community, and we have had a lot of impact through the catalyzing of people working together, looking at system-level solutions. So this timeline briefly shows you in the first, since 2017, 2019, some things that happened out of the work that was kind of triggered and supported and underpinned by Focus on Prevention. We had the Outreach and Engagement Center open. We actually have a coordinated system of care to address homelessness in our community, which is outstanding and making a difference every day. As a result of this, Marion Cannon, at the time with the Community Foundation, decided to launch a Cradle to Career initiative, which is really a good example of collective impact work in the area of education. We did MOEs to temporarily house homeless people while we were figuring out what to do with permanent shelter solutions. We have the downtown street team. We have opened the Lowberry Shelter downtown. And if you will go to the next slide, Damien. We also opened Kansas House. I can tell you personally that the Center for Human Services, the motivation for opening the Youth Navigation Center was really tied to the work we've been doing collectively in Focus on Prevention. And there have been other things. The Shaw has been created, a lot of momentum. And this is just in one area of homelessness. And so as we move forward as a movement with Focus on Prevention, we're looking at what are the needs for mental health and health issues? What initiatives can we support and get people together in conversations about workforce development, neighborhood safety? All of those different areas we'll be looking at as we move forward. So I'm going to turn this over to Kate, I think, next. Damien, that's kind of what I had. I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has about the fiscal role the center will play in supporting this effort.
Any questions for Cindy? Very good. Thanks, Cindy. Okay, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good.
It's nice to see everybody. Thanks for allowing me to have a few minutes. I'm not going to read everything on the slide, but there are a couple things that I feel like are important to say. So I've had the real pleasure of working with Focus on Prevention in a couple different capacities for the last couple years, and was around when it started. I was employed by Center for Human Services at the time. For the last 5 years, I've been out on my own doing systems change work, leadership development, coaching, connected to many efforts that are connected to you all and others across the county and the state that are addressing issues that really no one person or organization could be responsible for solving by themselves. So most recently in the last several months, not just because of focus on prevention and the opportunity there, but because I think this community and other communities are starting to really get what it means to work collectively. We've used the language of collective impact, but really that's just about the recognition that if we intend to affect entire populations of people and not just program participants, right, that we need to do that in a more collective way. I'm scaling my business. So what the proposal here is that Center for Human Services would act as the fiscal agent, and that Connect 4, which is my organization, would act as the backbone team. So I just wanted to highlight that although the organization Connect 4 is new, the work is not. This is the result of many years of work and learning, and the fact that this community continues to ask for what, in my opinion, is the right kind of work to move real results forward. The other thing that I just wanted to mention about a non-government entity, and I say this with all kinds of respect, that my organization can move with a kind of speed and flexibility that often government organizations cannot, for lots of really important reasons. And that is really something that's been wanting from the steering committee and others for us to be able to really run with some important learning and strategies that have come to mind. So the role of a backbone team is really, we often say in the meeting that we need somebody who wakes up every morning just thinking about this. Focus on prevention when you talk about a collective impact effort. All the people that Damien mentioned on the steering committee, they all have full-time jobs, and then some, right? So when they come into meetings and we make plans and we collect data and we learn important things, they go back to the pressures of their jobs and their boards and all kinds of other competing priorities. So even though we say in collective impact this is a shared leadership style, it still requires somebody to wake up every morning thinking about moving this work forward. And it requires somebody who can be kind of the center of gravity, right? Who can call people to the table, can point out where we may be impeding our own progress, what's supporting our success, and so on. So the role of Connect 4 would really be to be that body who wakes up every morning thinking about making sure that this effort is doing what we intend it to do, which is to focus on prevention for outcomes that we would like to see for youth and families in Stanislaus County. More specifically, we have a comprehensive work plan that can certainly be made available, but I wanted to just highlight some of what I think you can expect to see with this new relationship, should this be the direction we decide to go. One of the things that's really important in collective impact is our ability to learn together, so you're going to see a lot of learning opportunities that might be in the form of events, trainings, workshops, and things around our priority result areas, which, if you recall, are housing, economy, health, neighborhoods, and education. Also, the opportunity to partner with folks like the Cradle to Career Partnership, which is currently backboned by the County Office of Education. I'm very grateful that they're here in the room offering support today for this next phase. I also think that you're going to see, and I know from my own experience, increased collaboration across really important agencies and also community groups. This collective impact work is made complete by the engaging of the folks whose lives we intend to impact. So I would also imagine that you'll start to see a lot of system leaders coming together with what we refer to as resident champions, but those folks who are living in our communities who ultimately have the lived experience that we're hoping to learn from and in many instances change. And then I think that you can also expect to see the catalyzing of both existing and new prevention efforts. We need to be using data to drive our decision making. So spending a lot of time collecting information about what's happening, where it's happening and with whom, but also so what. We need to be asking ourselves whether anyone's better off because of the work that we're investing in. And when we do that collectively, we can make decisions about things we may need to stop doing and things we may need to be doing more of. And I think that creating the conditions for us to have those hard conversations are going to be really important and critical to our achieving any sort of success. And finally, I would just say that if we do this well, we'll see increased funding and policy changes as it relates to what really should be happening in this community to make sure that families can thrive and this becomes a community or continues to be a community of choice. The steering committee hears me say often that we're not going to program our way out of this stuff when we think about housing, economy, health, education, safety, and neighborhoods. We need to be thinking much broader than just a programmatic approach. And the other thing I often say is that you can't take changed people and put them in unchanged environments. We need to be thinking systemically about how we address and achieve the kinds of outcomes that we want for the young people and the families that we have in this community and beyond. So just a final visual. I don't know that it needs to be restated, but you all are the funders, which we're very grateful for, the taxpayers perhaps too, and that we're offering Center for Human Services as a fiscal agent who can hold those funds and ultimately contract with Connect 4, who would partner with the steering committee to move this forward in all kinds of ways. So very happy to take questions. I know Damien has a few other things to say.
Any questions for Kate? Okay.
You have the capacity, right?
You have the capacity to do all of this?
I will hire people. Supervisor Chiesa. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Kate.
Thanks, Cindy. Thanks, Kate. Going to end the presentation today with a budget as well as the staff recommendations. So the following graph here outlines the funding allocation for Focus on Prevention since its inception in fiscal year 2014 and 2015. You'll see that the lighter shade is the fund utilization, and the darker shade of orange is the unused balance. The table is organized by fund utilization versus unused balance. Thus far, in total, Focus on Prevention has been allocated $8 million, with an additional $2 million left for fiscal years 2022 to 2023 and 2023 to 2024. Approximately, up to this point, $3.6 million has been utilized, and approximately $4.4 million in savings has been returned to the general fund. In this table here, you'll see that effective today, August 30th, 2022, the recommendation is to transition the backbone support from the county to the Center for Human Services. Of the $1 million annual county budget for Focus on Prevention, $425,000, which is highlighted in yellow, will be dedicated to this support. The remaining $575,000, which is highlighted in the light blue, in the Focus on Prevention budget will continue to support county staff positions previously authorized by the board, along with attendant expenses. These positions include 1 Manager 4 to be redirected to performance visioning, results-based accountability, and data support. 1 Manager 1, 2, 3 will continue to support the housing result area, and 1 confidential assistant 4 will be assigned to support an assistant executive officer. The former deputy executive officer position has been redirected from the staff allocation of the chief executive office and approved by prior board action. It is recognized that all 3 existing assistant executive officers have assignments in support of the Focus on Prevention result areas. And now I'd like to end the presentation with staff recommendations. First, the recommendation is to approve the contract between the county and Center for Human Services for steering committee, backbone support, and community capacity building in an amount not to exceed $850,000 for the 2-year period to be effective today, August 30th, 2022 through June 30th, 2024. And 2, to authorize the chief executive officer or his designee to sign the contract and any other related documents. That will conclude staff's presentation, and I will be available for questions as well as our co-presenters. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, Damien. Okay, any questions for staff? Okay. I'm going to, just real quick, just thank you guys for doing this. I want to thank Cindy and Kate and Damien and Brad out there for all the work you guys have done on this thing over the years. And it's great we're doing this because, again, like we said, we have 3 new board members here, and this goes back 8 years. Amazing. 8 years have gone by since we started this. And really how this all is happening and the way we're making progress with this and everything else we're doing with regard to this is just the relationships that we kind of built, that we started in a room one day, I think up over here on 10th Street, upstairs in a room where we all sat in there and said we're going to do things different. We're going to start looking at things differently. We're going to start working together. And then when we broke down silos, and because of that and the collaboration and stuff that we did there, I mean, it's great, this couple slides you've got here showing the all these things that have happened, all these things that have kind of been a part of, or that you guys have all helped make happen, that were kind of born out of focus on prevention and just that root cause, getting to the root cause. And it's just an impressive list. You always think, well, what have you done? And when you look through this, you think, we kind of just keep going through each day thinking, but when you go back and look, there's a lot of stuff that we're doing, that we're making great progress on. And I think of the other stuff that's not on here. We've got the hotel that we rented over on 9th Street for families that we got, for families that are homeless over there. We've got the migrant housing in Empire that we've set up to work and during the winter for families also, and stuff going on in Patterson. Just all kinds of good things that are happening as a result of the work that you guys are doing. And I know there's so much more still to do. It won't end. I mean, we hope it will end someday, that we'll get to a point where we'll put ourselves out of business, we always say. But what you guys are doing is amazing work. It's a perfect time for us now to transition again, to move it away from government. We said from the beginning that government's not the answer. When we first started this from the first day, government is not the answer. But we're good facilitators, and we're good getting people together. And so it just seems natural that we're moving to this next phase here. And I want to thank all you guys for what you've done and just kind of help change the mindset of community and community leaders to look at things differently and to get out of those silos and to work together. And when we do, you can look on these couple pages, all these things that have been accomplished because of that change of mindset and everybody willing to work together on these things. So thank you guys very much for all you're doing, and we look forward to more great things coming here. So, Supervisor Chiesa.
Yeah, thank you very much. And so none of this would have been possible without the chairman. This was his thought process many years ago, and it took a little while to get to fruition, and now it really seems to be doing well, again, as the capacity was built out. I asked Kate if she has capacity because, and the same for you, Cindy, and your organization, good people are in demand. There's a shortage of folks who take on this work and actually move the needle. Kate, you said something that you say it much more eloquently, but you can't take changed people and put them in an unchanged environment. And that reminds me that the last couple of times I've been in our REACT Center in the classroom, I always ask the folks who are about ready to be released from incarceration, it's a step-down unit, and I ask them if they've gotten their needs met inside the classroom. And typically the answer is yes, GED, anger management classes, just how to react to society. And then I ask the question of what's your biggest impediment to succeeding on the outside? And it is exactly that. I have no place to go but back to where my problems occurred. And taking that holistically, that's one microcosm, but if you take that holistically, you have to change the environment that people are in. And I agree with you, government's not the answer. We're the funders. We've talked about that many times. Brad, I throw so many kudos at you whenever I'm at a council meeting just about your effort in taking this global picture of trying to make a difference in our community in many different ways. It does not go unnoticed from this board, or for that matter, you're probably more effective as an unelected leader than you could be as an elected leader at this point. You're just making such a difference. So thank you. Again, back to the chairman, to the CEO. What you've created here is amazing, truly amazing. I know you're just one person, but it always starts with one of the board members pushing an idea, pushing a thought, and making sure that that little guy who's out in front of your house doesn't end up in our system. So thank you, Terry.
Thanks, Vito. Yeah, and it's a team effort. Just it couldn't be done without the team. So thank you, everybody. Okay, I'm going to see if there's any public comment with regard to this one. See none, I will bring it. Come on up. Well, you got to have you come up to the mic here and identify yourself. Sorry.
All right, everybody, how you doing?
Good. Just give us your name for the record there.
Hi, my name is Luis Bonilla. I just had a quick question. The money that's left over, it goes into a saving fund, correct?
It goes back into the general fund.
General fund. How does that work?
So it goes back for us to be able to use next year and next year's budget. Yes.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because a lot of funds sometimes you're able to authorize, moving it from one location to another, like a financial intermediary. like a clearing corporation, something like that? Is that kind of how that works?
If the funds aren't used, as with a lot of funds in our budget, at the end of the year, if we end up not spending them, it goes back in a general fund, and then that just is money that we then have to use to budget for next year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm just...
For all kinds of things, right?
I'm super curious. This is actually my first board meeting I've ever been to, so I'm actually, I'm curious to see how it all works.
Okay.
But thank you.
All right, thanks, Luis. Thanks for coming up.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Something tells me he had a place to spend it.
I think so. Probably so. We all do. Okay, thank you. Okay, I'll bring it back to the board for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Go ahead. I'll defer.
Manny, chance.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good work. Okay, we will move on to item 2, 6.2, approval to consider and adopt resolution necessary to acquire real property. David Lehman. David, how are you?
Good, how about yourself?
I'm good, thank you.
We lost Jamie. She'll be right back, so.
Okay.
What's that? Very good, thank you.
So the pitch was so high and out of the batter's box, it was like the guy, if you would have been standing in the on-deck circle, that's about where the cameraman was.
Oh, my gosh.
And as I watched the throw, I just kept, it took this arc, I go, that's going to hit him right in the head. And the guy didn't move, he had a camera, and I thought he would at least see it coming in the camera. That's right, it would have helped him.
Oh, my gosh. Fun game, nuts lost.
Yeah.
Kings?
Really? I didn't hear that.
Randeep?
There we go. All right.
Okay.
I think we're ready. Dave Lehman, Stanislaus County Public Works Director, brought with me today some of the right-of-way team for North County Corridor. To my right is Arden Shaverdian, and he's our outside counsel for Nossaman. And then I also brought Jamie Lupo, former District 6 Central Region right-of-way chief, and she works for OPC, Overland Pacific Cutler. They're our right-of-way agent consultant on this project, and we're here to consider items 6.2 to 6.5. We'll stop at the recommendations on each one. Is for a resolution of necessity to acquire real property for Jimenez, Cox, Filippini, and Chirinos. Here's the NCC Phase 1 project limits. We're improving from the intersection of Oakdale and Clarabelle, improving Oakdale down to the new intersection of NCC. New interchange at Roselle as we head east from Oakdale, then up and over the MID Canal, up and over the BNSF tracks, and then landing at Claus. And new 108 there eventually. I guess it'll be New Clarabelle. I'm not sure what the name will be yet. Thought I'd briefly describe our public outreach efforts in the last couple months. In the last month, 3 evaluation hearings were held at Public Works. As a result of these in-person meetings, 3 settlements were obtained with property owners. Jimenez, the NCC team, has attempted contact 7 times. They are represented by California Eminent Domain Law Firm. Cox, the NCC team, has attempted contact 10 times. They're also represented by the California eminent domain law firm. And Filippini, he's one of the folks that we have met with. We have a tentative verbal agreement, and we should have a written agreement here in another few weeks. And Chirinos, the NCC team, has attempted contact 9 times. They're also represented by California eminent domain law firm. Public interest and necessity. The NCC project will improve the regional network circulation. It'll relieve existing traffic congestion, reduce traffic delay, and accommodate future traffic on State Route 108. It enhances traffic safety. The environmental documents were certified alternative 1B on May 22, 2020, is recommended as a locally preferred alternative by 4 public agencies, cities of Riverbank, Oakdale, Modesto, and Stanislaus County. Through that process, this project has the greatest public good and least private injury. And that was through the rigorous environmental studies that we did over about a decade. The project has been designed to maximize the benefits to the public at large while minimizing impacts to private property owners. The project team has worked diligently to minimize the need for property acquisitions. We did make offers as required by law. We hired an independent licensed appraiser. We wrote fair market value offers. We did offer to reimburse people per law $5,000 for their own appraisals. As a side, Filippini did that. We accepted his appraisal as being reasonable and prudent, and so I think that helped us get there. County has attempted to negotiate an amicable settlement in good faith, continues to do so, but has been unsuccessful thus far. The RON findings that we need to make, that the public interest and necessity require the North County Corridor Project Phase 1, final EIS was approved on May 22, 2020. The project is planned in the manner that will be the most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. The subject properties are necessary for the project, and offers have been made to the parcel owners. Here's the Jimenez property. It's at the east end of the bridge that goes, this is New Clarabelle Road, this is the local road, and it's the high point on the east side is where the abutment and the bridge lands, and that's on the Jimenez property. And here's the portion of the Jimenez property we need. You can see there's no dwellings there, and it's mostly open pasture land. And here's where local Clarabelle Road, New Clarabelle Road, will go through that portion of the property. The south of it is mainline North County Corridor, which also will be partly on their property. And here's the staff recommendations. Find that the public interest and necessity require the NCC project Phase 1. Find that the project is planned or located in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. Find that the subject property, APN 075, 024, 001, described in the attached resolution is necessary for the project. Find that the offer required by Section 7267.2 of the Government Code has been made to the parcel owners, Solarino Jimenez and Maria Jimenez of the property to be acquired, adopt a RON in the form attached as Attachment 1, and authorize County Council to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire the subject property. I'd like now to request the Chair open this discussion item for public comment.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Dave. We will open well, it's not a public hearing, so we'll just look for any questions of the board before.
So can I ask, did only one of the 4 that are here utilize the $5,000 other and have it?
That is correct.
And have they've been offered? I know they have. And what is the holdup from getting their second appraisal, their own appraisal? Do you know? No, you haven't had contact. Okay. All right.
No, we haven't heard. We've asked, we haven't heard.
Okay, thank you.
I think, thank you, Dave, for your report. I think part of that, not getting that second appraisal, at least if you go back and read through the emails, and Dave, you and I kind of discussed this last night when I had some questions, and I gave you a call, about not receiving a full set of project plans. Mm-hmm. And you kind of walked me through that a full set of project plans is not going to be available almost already up till construction. Right? If you want to explain that a little bit, I think that might relieve some confusion.
Right. We're at the 90% plans, which means all the horizontal and vertical design has been done. Right now, we're working on traffic control plans, which will have no impact on on what right-of-way we need. It might include striping plans. It's just the final details of the plan set. We know exactly how much right-of-way we need right now at the 90% milestone.
So when they're requesting the full set, a full set is not done yet?
And we've given them what we've had to date.
Okay.
Very good. Any more questions? Dave, real quick, so Filippini is the only one we have an agreement with, is that right?
That's a verbal agreement, and the last issue with Filippini is his tenants lived there for 30 years, and we've appraised the appurtenances at $185,000, and some of them belong to the owner, and some of them belong to the tenant. And so they're working amongst themselves to decide how to split that 185 equitably. And once they figure that out, each party will quit claim that which is not theirs to the other person, and then we'll be able to sign an agreement with Filippini. We should have that in a couple weeks.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you. So we're going to now, if there's no more questions of the board, we'll look to any questions, comments from the public. Do we have anybody that would like to? I do have one speaker card from Glenn Block.
Yes.
Yes. Glenn, good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Glenn Block. Our law firm is California Eminent Domain Law Group.
Sorry.
You're close. I represent Mr. Jimenez and his family. They are the owners of this property. The comments that I'm going to give now would be equally applicable to the Celerino or Bonilla property as well as the Cox property. Member Condon, you read the materials and you saw the emails, and I learned something, which is that 90% plans are available. And we'll go through why that's important and what we need. So first and foremost, I'm sure each of you understand and respect the importance or the gravity of what you're to do here today. It shows up as some slides, some pieces of paper, but this is the government's authority to take private property, to compel their contribution to this public project. And so it's a very grave situation. And the legislature has imposed certain rules and laws as to how the government is to go about doing this. And unless and until the government fulfills its obligations, it cannot proceed with doing so. So there's one important one that we're going to discuss today. While the three families don't challenge this project, the importance of this project to the community, or moving forward with the project in its proper time, they do expect to be treated fairly, and that the County of Stanislaus will observe their rights and interests and will meet its legal obligations. What we're focused on here is number 4, to find that the offer required by Government Code 7267.2 has been made to each of the property owners. That has not taken place. It hasn't taken place because in order for a proper evaluation or appraisal, determination of fair compensation is made, when only a portion of the property is being taken, it is imperative that the appraiser review and consider the actual project plans. That didn't take place here. It is not that these property owners have not wanted to or indicated their interest in obtaining their own appraisal and negotiating with the county. It is not possible to do that without the plans. We've been provided with 6 pages of 450 or so pages of plans. Now, if there's 90% drawings, that's something that our appraiser can work with and evaluate understanding what the project impacts are, and evaluating whether or not that will lead to compensation, essentially damages to the remaining property. With respect to the Jimenez property, staff referenced an abutment that will be constructed on what is their property. This is the type of physical structure that a property owner needs to understand. What is going to be built, because it's coming across essentially their front yard. How does that affect? If any of us had our homes, our front yards taken, we would want to know what is going to be built there so that we can come and say, well, if you're going to do that, if that's what we're going to be left with, we think that's going to affect our property this way, and so we believe X dollars is how much we should be compensated. It is impossible to make that analysis and come forward and obtain an appraisal or to evaluate the county's appraisal and whether it's valid or reasonable without knowing what is going to be built. Without plans, and 6 pages does not say enough about what's going on. It's 6 pages that doesn't have any of the details. It doesn't even have a legend, or so there's numbers or references on the 6 pages we've been provided, but it doesn't say what's going to be built. It doesn't show the dimensions of things that are going to be built on the property. So, yes, the property owner needs it, but in order for this board to find number 4, that a proper offer has been made, you need to know that the county's appraiser has considered those items. Now, I don't know what may have been provided to the county's appraiser. In her appraisal, there are no details of the project construction at all. She does not make reference to having reviewed any plans. The 6 pages that we've been provided are dated May 31st, 2022. We know that the county's appraiser, Ms. Patton, did not review those plans because her appraisal is dated January 14th or something, 4 months before, 5 months before. So this board cannot make the finding number 4. And so unless and until the board can make that finding, unless and until the county makes a proper offer of compensation, taking into account the actual plans, what will actually be constructed, it cannot move forward. So, once a proper offer has been made, once the property owner has the opportunity to obtain its own independent appraisal, which we have indicated, as Mr. Condon saw in the correspondence going back to March, contrary to what's in the staff report, we have indicated from day one that the property owners intend to obtain an appraisal, and they will, and they plan to engage in negotiations in an effort to reach an agreement with the county on the acquisition of the property. Unless and until that takes place, this board cannot move forward. We ask that this hearing be delayed to give the county the opportunity to comply with its obligations and to give the property owners the opportunity to obtain an independent appraisal, engage in those negotiations, and attempt to reach a negotiated agreement. Unless Mr. Jimenez has anything to add, or Mr. Bonilla Chirinos has anything to add, I'm available to answer any questions. We appreciate your time and consideration and look forward to working with the county. Mr. Shaverdian and I have a long professional relationship, and I'm sure that we will be able to work together in this matter as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Block. Dave, I just have a couple quick questions, if I could. When did we, and maybe you can stay up here, Mr. Block, if you don't mind. When did we initially reach out to make contact once we determined these are the properties we need? When did that start? Just ballpark back.
No, it was 2021.
Okay, back in 2021 is when we first started to reach out. And I see we've got a list of how many times we attempted. I assume from the ones, to the extent, Mr. Block, you represent them, the amount of times that we attempted. Have you met with, have you had meetings with Mr. Lehman in Public Works?
I have not met with Mr. Lehman or spoken with him. I have spoken with Steve Harris of OPC, of Ms. Lupo's office, on numerous occasions, and corresponded with him about this issue, about getting plans and our intentions of obtaining an appraisal. So we've had many, many communications, some of which are included in attached to my letter that's in your package.
So we started this back in 21. When were you retained, Mr. Block, to start to represent them?
March of 2022.
Okay.
The offers were made, I believe, February 2nd of 2022. So very shortly thereafter, at least these property owners contacted me seeking representation. And as soon as our office, as soon as I was retained, we reached out to the city, or to the county, through Mr. Harris, to get copies of the plans because it's essential.
Okay, so we've had 6 months since we made the initial offer, and we still aren't. Sounds like we've worked to a verbal agreement on one of them, but the other three are not moving, sounds like.
Well, they can't move. You don't have the plans.
Okay, so.
So then, can I ask
Go
a
ahead.
follow-up question? So there's 2.92 acres. I'm going to look at you. That's the amount on the...
Correct.
That's not a construction easement. That's the property. Okay, so I'm looking at the plans on on the agenda item, but it's this plan. It's the one that shows, right? Just so everyone can see. So are you contending that because the plans, because there's no structures, right, to be taken off of that property on that portion that's necessary?
The area where the roadway is going to be constructed is presently grazing areas for the animals that are raised there.
Okay.
There are no structures on the property existing, but the county intends to build roadway structures. Those are the structures that I'm referring to.
But there's structures on the property, just not where the county is looking, up in the top.
If you look at
corner,
the very
yeah.
top, I think it's the right-hand corner, the northeast corner, you'll see
Yeah.
a home and some other structures.
So the 2.92 acres, are you worried about the elevation creating a problem, or is this just the width of it on the plans?
It is certainly the elevation, what it's going to look like. If it's a roadway that's, several hundred feet away from your home, that's one thing. If it's a 40-foot high bridge abutment, that's a whole different thing, right? So yes, absolutely, that's what's important. That's one of the components that's important. What is going to be built? Another aspect is how it's going to be built. So right now, the property gets its access off of Clarabelle and the north-south road that runs along the railroad tracks. How is this property going to be accessed during construction? And Mr. Lehman discussed the preparation of traffic control plans. That's an essential thing to know. How is traffic going to be managed and circulated during construction? How are these people going to be able to access their home? Is traffic going to be rerouted along the streets where they live? Those are the kinds of day-to-day impacts during construction that need to be evaluated to make sure that the property owners are treated fairly.
But those are temporary impediments, right? Just during construction, but are you trying to place a value on those temporary impediments?
Of course, yeah. I mean, if you live in your house and now it's going to take you have to go miles out of the way to get home each day, obviously that's an impediment. Or if the county is going to be directing all neighborhood traffic around your house, of course that's something, a changed condition that is something that you're going to want to be treated fairly about.
Okay, temporarily.
Of course, yes, absolutely. Yes, oftentimes temporary impacts from partial acquisitions are much more impactful. This is not necessarily that kind of situation, but you can imagine if a business has a driveway that is going to be in the midst of construction and not
Yeah, of
accessible.
course, if we're talking about access to a business.
And that is a temporary impact. So
No
similar
question, yeah.
with a
In that
home.
situation, yeah.
I think Mr. Jimenez, Mr. Chirinos, and Mr. Bonilla will express to you their concerns about temporary impacts that they'll have to live with on a day-to-day basis. Did you want to say something, please?
Real quick, their driveways are on Davis. There are no driveways on Terminal, nor is there a driveway on Clarabelle to access the property.
And Davis
So
goes all the
it's
way to
Davis,
Claus,
and so
too,
he's
right?
saying his front yard is really their backyard, just to clarify. It's a backyard we're buying, not their front yard.
And just one other sort of legal issue to bring into the mix. Security of access is a sort of a contested issue in the eminent domain world. There are arguments on both sides. It's not necessarily always compensable. In fact, one would argue it's not compensable, to the extent it's related to these types of properties. But again, those are legal issues that this Board of Supervisors isn't necessarily qualified to discuss or have an opinion on. At the end of the day, I think what's important is that the finding is that this board finds that an offer pursuant to 7267.2 has been made, because that's the one issue that's being contested. And once again, just as a reminder, the county retained a qualified licensed appraiser to appraise the subject properties. That appraisal went through a rigorous review process, and then again through one that Caltrans also looked at. So it's really seen about 3 eyes from the appraisal world who are experts in appraisal and are licensed, and it's certainly outside of the expertise of what I have as an expertise in. So I don't know that we are in a position to question whether a particular appraisal that is out there right now that's been appraised by a licensed appraiser, what the property owner is essentially asking is that we find or that we look to see whether that appraisal is a legitimate appraisal or not. And I think, we've had 3 eyes already sort of look at that. Our finding is whether an offer has been made. There is going to be plenty of opportunities for these discussions to go back and forth between council and I, and property owner and county, to look at these issues that they claim that they're concerned about.
Okay, Luis.
Thank you. No, I do believe that there was an appraisal done. We're not denying that part, but the option for us to have an appraisal done independently hasn't been able to be made. Like Herb was saying before, there was no offer of updated project plans, especially since we do have new buildings that are being, permitted, and everything that is involving with the road right in front of the property. There are, I guess you could say, there are accessory buildings right alongside the road. So with the construction coming through, those buildings are actually going to be taken away. So there's not a real appraisal done for the damages caused to the property, real property. Not just as if there was vacant land, but there are buildings on there that need to be addressed, as well as the driveway, because there is a driveway. That's the only entrance to the property, is right on Claus Road, and that will be taken, basically. The other thing is that we also do have income coming from the property. On the southern border, there is a fence, cattle ranch fence, that will be effective in 3 different ways, that we also are renting for cattle, and if we're not able to have the cattle there in that area while they're doing the construction, we need to find a new way to redraw the line where the fence will go. And the offer to build that fence is not even enough for the contractors to come out and construct it, not even the materials. So if we had a little bit more time, it would be really appreciated if we could just get a little bit more time to get the appraisal done, because there's a lot of missing things. Even Corey Nelson, a representative from OPC, had even mentioned that He had missed a lot of things on the report, and when the contract came through, it was all in English. My dad's a Spanish-speaking, he's Spanish-speaking. So he actually had to call me from Sacramento to come out here and read the contract, and we didn't know what to do specifically, because if we tried to make a contact, then they would consider that as not a rebuttal or a rebuttal, but it was more just like we received it and we're contemplating it, you know. So we contacted the law firm, you know, Glenn Block, and he just told me, you know, it's better if you don't respond, because there's a lot of missing details that are not in the contract or the agreement. It says the agreement, the appraisal. And back in, I believe it was last summer, 2021, I wasn't there, my father was. The representatives from, I don't know if they're patent, I'm not sure who that is, but they're an appraisal group. 2021, right? Right.
We've got to come up to the mic.
Do we need your dad to come up here, and maybe you can interpret for me if you can?
Just to clarify, is this the Jimenez property, or are you guys talking about the Chirinos?
Chirinos property.
Okay, so we're going to talk about that one. That's the fourth one. No, this is for the Jimenez property, so it's a fourth discussion item. It's
Okay. No, that makes
6-5.
sense. We were trying to figure out where the buildings were.
Right. That's, yes.
Okay,
So just to clarify that.
We'll come back to you if you guys
Sure.
can. Okay.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah, no
Sorry about
worries.
that. All right, thank you. Okay. Any other questions from the public? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board, and we'll look for further comments, questions.
Dave, the negotiations on all that still keep going forward. I know you've mentioned that several times, so it's not because we do this action here, everything stops. Everything still keeps going forward as far as negotiations.
Absolutely. It's in everyone's best interest to reach a settlement.
Okay. Thanks, Buck. Anybody else?
I just want to encourage these homeowners to, and I just heard something, it isn't specifically about this property, but to move a fence. If the bids are higher than that, then that's why you get an appraisal, a separate appraisal, with someone that you think has better information. I'm assuming that happened on the Filippini, that there was an increase in cost. And I encourage you to do that. Find someone that you feel comfortable with and get that done sooner rather than later. These large public works projects take a lot of time, and we're slogging through these, but that's in fairness to yourself or to the Jimenez family to make sure that they're paid a fair price for their property. That's important, I think, to this board as well as to the Jimenez family. And you know, I wouldn't want the government showing up and deciding to take our property without justly compensating us, and because we've sold some property before for a project. And we've done this many times. So anyways, those are just some thoughts.
Okay, very good. Buck?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Yeah, no, I just want to repeat what Vito said. We very much realize and appreciate the seriousness of this, and anytime eminent domain is involved, we get it, and we want to make sure we're doing the right thing and at a fair price. And we've stated this multiple times, especially with regard to this project. We've had individuals in here that we've listened to and made all the effort we can to make sure we get at a price, to get to a spot that's fair for everybody. So, okay. So I guess we will look for some sort of action. Motion on item 6.2 to start with.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. Okay, very good. Thank you. We'll move on to item 6.3.
This is the Cox parcel. It's at the northwest corner of Miniar and Claus. APN 075 022 032. And it's a, what we would call, it's a partial take, it's a sliver take along Claus and a snipe or a corner at Claus and Minier. And here's what the future road will look like. Staff is recommending that, again, we find that the public interest and necessity require the North County Corridor Project Phase 1, find that the project is planned or located in the manner that will be the most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury, find that the subject property 075, 022, 032 described in the attached resolution is necessary for the project, find that the offer required by Section 7267.2 of the Government Code has been made to the parcel owners, Nathan Cox, of the property to be acquired, adopt a resolution of necessity in the form attached here to as Attachment 1, and authorize County Council to initiate eminent domain proceedings to acquire the subject property.
Okay. That's it.
Yeah.
Any questions on this one with regard to this one?
I just want to know, the little brown on the picture, is that utilized property? Is it, or is it just like setback, the brown?
Oh, the brown is what we're proposing to buy.
Yeah, but is it setback, or is there actually something built on it?
There's nothing built on it. It is partly for storm drainage and partly for utility relocations.
Is that why those two yellow, because this one I didn't understand.
All right, here, let me go back.
Go back.
So the two yellow lines on top, those are driveways. We're not proposing to cut off their access completely to Claus. They'll still have that driveway on the north end of their property on Claus.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, good.
I understand it better.
All right, thanks, Judy.
They're still going to have access on Minier, right?
Yes, exactly. And there's that driveway on Claus. There's two still.
All right, any other questions for Dave? Okay, we'll move on to the public. Any comments on this one? Mr. Block.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'll just reiterate, the way it works is the county complies with its obligations before, makes a proper offer of compensation. Just like in the Jimenez property, the appraisal done by the county did not consider the actual project, the actual plans, so it can't be a proper offer of compensation. This is not a question of how much the property owner is entitled to, although certainly we contest the amount of compensation. That is a separate issue. What the objection that is raised here is that the county has not complied with its legal obligation to make a proper offer of compensation because the appraisal did not consider the actual project that is going to be constructed. It couldn't have, because the plans weren't even done when she did her appraisal in January. So what the board just did with the Jimenez property is authorize an improper or authorize the resolution of necessity when the county hasn't complied with its legal obligations. I suggest that, again, that this hearing and the others be put over until the city complies with its legal obligations.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Block. Any other comments, questions with regard to this one? Stephen? Stephen, how are you?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Stephen Morrow, and I do not have any financial interest in any of the properties that are being discussed today. But in looking over the documents, there's one statement in the next steps that's common to all four of them. And it states that the staff and county council will work with outside counsel to initiate court proceedings to acquire the either easement or the entire property subject or necessary for the project, as well as seek prejudgment possession of the subject property as necessary. Now, I just have one question. What exactly is prejudgment possession, and why would it be necessary in this particular case to have that for my own information? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Stephen.
Do you want to take it, or do you want me to take it? We're looking for an order of possession at some point. With these, if we file suit, we deposit with the state treasurer the money that we appraised the property for, And at some point, we're going to construct our project, we're going to ask the court for an order of possession so that we can get our right-of-way cert, so we can go build the project. We can discuss and negotiate even after that. We can negotiate and discuss price on the courthouse steps. So we want to negotiate the whole way. It's just at some point, we need an order of possession from a court that says, yes, you can have it, and the last remaining issues are compensation-based.
Yeah, it's essentially a law that the legislature has put in place allowing government agencies to take possession of a piece of property in an eminent domain action after giving notice and filing a motion and going through a hearing process. And if the court were to find that possession should be turned over, then the government agency has the right to take possession of the property in order to start doing what it needs to do to construct the project while the parties continue to deal with fair market value and just compensation. As you can imagine, sometimes, these matters, by the time the property owner gets an appraisal and the government agency gets a litigation appraisal and goes through the litigation process with the backed up court systems, it can take, a year or two. And if you haven't reached an agreement by that point, but you need to build your project, this is the mechanism that the legislature has put in place to allow you to obtain pre-judgment possession. So that means a possession before you've reached final judgment in the case.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, yeah, that was it just seemed, when I first read this, it just seemed to be a little strange that we would, allow to proceed on something before a formal judgment has been made on the property. But of course, I did not realize that, the legislature had allowed this because had passed a law, in essence, making that allowable. So thank you for clarifying that.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board for any further comments, questions, or motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have motion and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. We'll move on to item 6-4.
This is parcel 752518 Filippini. This is a full take, and we do have a verbal agreement on purchase price based on their appraisal. We accepted their appraisal as meeting all the qualifications of a good appraisal. And we've also come to terms or agreement on the appurtenances on the site. The last remaining issue on this one is the split between the property owner and the long-term tenant who's been there 30-plus years. We need the board to find that the property is necessary. Here's the outline of the parcel right next to the Lou's. And that's a local Clarabelle Road that goes right through the middle of this property. It's, as you can see, there's no economic remnant left. It's a full take. Staff recommends that the public interest and necessity require the North County Corridor Project, Phase 1, find that the project is planned or located in the manner that will be the most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury, find that the subject property 075-025-18 described in the attached resolution is necessary for the project, find that the offer required by section 7267.2 of the Government Code has been made to the parcel owners, adopt a resolution of necessity, and authorize county council to initiate eminent domain proceedings. We're doing this one, quote unquote, as a friendly, Ron. Nobody's disagreeing right now. It's just we have it if we need it. We anticipate to be under contract soon.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Any questions for Dave? Okay, questions of public? A quick question, then bring it back to the board. So the information that their appraiser, because they hired an appraiser, they had all the same information that everybody else did.
Right. And because their opinions of cost, opinions differ, right? Every human has a different opinion, and their opinions and their comps, we could see where they got that number from, and the team recommended accepting their appraisal as for just compensation.
But I guess the point I'm trying to make is they felt that they had enough information to do an appraisal, whereas I know the other property owners don't feel that they do.
Absolutely.
Is that correct? Okay. All right. Any other questions, comments from the board?
I move to approve staff's recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passed unanimously. We'll move on to item 6.5.
This is APN 075-023-005 Chirinos. This is at the northwest corner of future local road Clarabelle and Claus. It's a partial take along Claus, and it's that kind of swooping bit going from east to west from Claus over to the end where it tapers. That's New Clarabelle Road. And that's what it's going to look like in the future. Staff recommends again that we find that the public interest and necessity require the North County Corridor Project, Phase 1. Find that the project is planned or located in the manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury. Find that the subject property, 075-023-005, is necessary. Find that the offer required by Section 7267.2 of the Government Code has been made to the parcel owners. Adopt a resolution of necessity and authorize County Council to initiate eminent domain proceedings.
Okay, thanks, Dave. Any questions for Dave on this one? See none. Public? Any public? Couple over there. Mr. Black.
Mr. Chair, thank you. As to your comment about the information that the Filipinos had, their entire property was being acquired. They don't care what the construction plans look like. They don't care about the project. They don't have to live with the project on their property for the rest of the time they own it. So it doesn't matter. My clients, the Cox family, the Jimenez family, the Bonilla family, are going to have new roads across their properties. And so, yes, they care what the project's going to look like. And yes, the county's appraiser, or the county, has an obligation to obtain an appraisal which considers those plans. It's a partial acquisition, the improvements that are being constructed, how they're going to be constructed, when they're going to be constructed, is essential to determine what fair compensation is. Here, the county's appraiser did not have any of that information, and so the offer was improper. The county cannot make the finding under number 4 that an offer was made. I'll let Mr. Bonilla speak on behalf of his family about their concern.
Thank you, Glenn. Hi, back again. So, yeah, like I was saying earlier, we do, if you can, could you pull up the picture again, David?
Yeah.
Please?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. There you go.
Like I said, you know, we're okay with the project going on. We just wanted to find a way to get negotiations to where it's fairly compensated. Right there where the swoop comes in, that's where we have cattle. We have about 20 or so cattle there. We rent it out, so it does provide income for us. Over there on the right side towards the eastern border, it will be going along right alongside the barn as well as our storage shed, and it will take some irrigation lines, as well as be right on the front porch of the house. Let's see, and then it's going to take the driveway, obviously. So there's quite a bit going on our property. Like Glenn said, it does affect us. It will affect us in the future, every day, so. And we do have a road service business. We need that exit and entrance to be able to, we're 24-hour. So we really do need this property the way it is, but like I said, we're all for, moving along, construction, we're happy with that, it's just, there are a lot of factors that were never put into the appraisal. Right.
Sorry, Luigi, do you have to repeat what he's saying, or are we going to have to have him come up here?
Sure. So right across the street, if you can see there, is the Riverbank Ammunitions Plant, or it used to be, it's the business park, the IPP. Right there is a lot of commercial traffic. There's actually been a couple of accidents. I wish I could show you some pictures I have on my phone of the accidents that were caused right in front of that driveway. There's just a lot of traffic that's going to be going on there, so it is a little bit of a pollutant. On paper, it shows, and in person. I guess you could say the driveway for right now, it's right alongside or right in front of the entrance that they have. So in order to get out, we'd have to wait for their commercial traffic to leave in order for us to leave. But I guess that's it for the driveway. But there's a lot more, you know. Like I said, the electrical, the fencing, the accessory dwelling, or the accessory unit and the accessory dwelling, because we do have a new ADU that just got permitted, that will be affected as well. So with the road coming right alongside those buildings, we would like to further negotiations, David. You know, like I said, we're here to help move this along as well. You know, right. So no hard feelings. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. So,
just a point real quick, that it will be a signalized intersection, so it'll be safer for both traffic going in and out of the business park and there at New Clarabelle. So that will be a traffic signal there, so it'll be much safer for everyone and hopefully prevents this kind of accidents in the future coming out of the business park.
Good point. I like that. Also, a quick question, if you don't mind. Do you know when the project might even be started, or when it will?
Spring 2024, we should break ground.
2024. Okay. Yeah. So, we had a representative. His name was Corey from OPC. He did say that they were going to start breaking ground, like you say, in 2027. I'm not sure the validity on that, honestly, but there was a lot of miscommunication there.
Luis, I need you to repeat that. Sorry.
Right. So we had the agent from OPC, I believe it's contract with Public Works, that the project, or we needed to give an answer within 90 days. If we didn't give the answer within 90 days, then I guess he said that there's nothing he could do, but he was calling. But like I said before, right, this was back in March. Like I said before, the contract came in English, and he's Spanish reading, So he had to call me from Sacramento. I had to come out here and actually read the contract. And for what I know, any contract I see, I have to give it to someone who knows more than, like a lawyer. Right. So he said that there was a lot of things that were missing from the actual project plans. He didn't put in for the appraisal report. So it was incomplete. He told me even after he sent us the letter, he said, we have an actually incomplete report. And he wanted to come back, but we didn't know if him coming back would assume agreement, like how do you say tacit? I believe it's tacit agreement. I believe, or just agreeing with it voluntarily. I don't know how to say acquiescence. So yeah, that's why we had to call Glenn Block, just to kind of understand further what the process is really, and what it is to move, or what it's going to take to move forward.
Okay.
I think that's it. Yeah. But we're open for negotiations. This is just to present to the board.
Right. Very good.
But thank you.
Thanks, Luis. David.
And I think that's just shows the importance of getting your own appraisal. Nobody knows your property better than you do. And so we make our best attempt at appraising a property. If you're not walking with our appraiser, it's our best shot. But when you if you walk with our appraiser and you point out everything that is on your property, it's much easier for us to come up with it. And then if you get your own appraisal, then you tell them all the stuff that we're just talking about. Really getting your own appraisal is a key part of this process.
Okay, perfect. So they still have the opportunity to get this appraisal done.
Absolutely.
Negotiation for the price, that'll still happen. Perfect. Okay. Any other comments or questions? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board and look for a motion.
Motion to approve staff recommendation.
Motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, passed unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to correspondence.
Don't forget about these people.
This board has received the claim and the correspondence that's noted on the agenda.
Acknowledge receipt of correspondence and refer as recommended on the agenda. Board of Supervisor reports. Any reports?
A quick one, I just wanted to report out that Supervisor Condit, myself, and Rosa Park and Councilwoman Rosa Scudia-Braden attended the Mobility 21 conference, and it was a transportation, and we talked about ports, zero-emission vehicles, utilization of better transit, how to, what's fair and sustainable on maintenance, preservation. Talked about bridges, building bridges, funding, lots of things, but it was a quick turnaround. It was one day, so I just wanted to report that out.
Very good. Thanks, Vito. Anything else from the board? Okay, Legislative, Fiscal, and Management Report, Chief Executive Officer Jody Hayes.
Okay, just a couple of items. Wanted to recognize that we have seen the final bill language for the CARE proposal from the state of California, and particularly from the governor's office, working closely with a couple of legislative advocates on Senate Bill 1338. And Stanislaus County is included, along with 6 other counties, in the first cohort of counties that will implement this CARE Court concept, should it be signed in by the governor, which we expect it to be. There has been $26 million identified for the first cohorts of counties. We're not sure what our allocation will be of that, and then $31 million that will go to all counties for planning grants. So we're going to get a piece of the $26 million and a piece of the 31, and we just don't know what that is. I will tell you that there was a lot of conversation about what the pros and cons would be of being in this first cohort of attempting to do this, and we do feel that it positions us to help shape what this program ultimately looks like. And we do believe at our staff level, and I know with some members of the board have been actively involved in some of these conversations, that we can make a difference in our community by focusing on some of the folks that seem to fall through the cracks, even despite all of our best attempts. Based on the last version of the legislation that we saw, we would implement this in October of ⁻23, so that gives us about a year to plan. The remaining counties in the state will be required to implement by December of '24. So they're going to have about a one additional year, but we're happy to go forward in this kind of pilot phase. We're just hoping to get a good piece of that initial funding chunk that'll help us do that. Also wanted to mention that we continue to oppose AB 1951 that increases tax exemptions for purchasing of manufacturing products. We have sent a veto letter to the governor on this. This does result in about a $2 billion reduction in local revenues across the state. Can't tell you how much of that would impact us, but it definitely impacts mental health funding, public safety funding, social service funding. So kind of a surprise that this one got all the way through to the process up until just a month or two ago. I don't know that anyone expected this would have enough support to get to the governor's desk, but it has. Also want to recognize that we're tracking just those remaining bills that are out there that are going to need some more advocacy, including AB 2201, which shifts control over groundwater permitting from local level up to Sacramento in ways that we would oppose. So we're focused on that as well. Thank you.
Very good, thanks.
Could I also, just because I know that on the CARE Court, we've been very supportive. Our chairman and the CEO have been very supportive of that. CSAC had originally taken a opposed position, but really what it comes down to, and I think the money shows why, there's $26 million for the first 7 counties and only $31 million set aside for 58 counties. They wanted it to be fully funded up front for fear that on an ongoing basis, as other counties jump in, there's not going to be enough money. I think we did a smart thing by getting in on the initial phase, but it makes sense as to why they were, because they're watching out for all 58, even though we believe that we're going to benefit from it. CSAC's position has been step up, telling the state to step up, fund the whole thing, which would be in the probably $200 million.
I appreciate that, and I think that, you're right, there is some risk in this whole thing, and I understand why CSAC took the position they did, but I appreciate our kind of leap of faith, and just, I mean, time is of the essence on this thing, and for us to be able to get involved and start this process in October of '23 gives us kind of over a year's jump that we need, rather than waiting for this thing to come around, and so hopefully, in the end, it'll allow us, and that's the whole purpose of it, is to get more people off the streets and into services. So I appreciate staff and everybody kind of stepping up and kind of getting out in front of the curve on this one with a lot of uncertainty. But we hope it'll prove to be fruitful for the individuals who need these services. So thank you guys very much for doing that. Okay, we're going to move on to our adjournment. Before we do, we have a closed session.
Yes, we have closed session this afternoon. We have a conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9, Subdivision D1. There's one case, Robert Trey Cheyenne Fletcher et al. Versus the County of Stanislaus et al. That's in the Stanislaus County Superior Court, and the case number is CV 20-00418. We do not expect a report out. Without, it would be appropriate for public comment.
Any comments with regard to closed session before we enter into it? Seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Stephen, thanks for hanging out with us.